I'm Dr. Manju Rajadurai, and this is The Scented Edge. My passion for these conversations comes from my own journey. This podcast is an effort to translate that lived experience into something meaningful and positive. Now, let's get into the episode. So let's begin. I'm Dr. Manju Rajadurai, and this is The Scented Edge. Today we have with us Shahmir Rajadurai, and he's wearing the Mafia coat shirt. So, let me ask Shahmir, when did you know?
God is everything. I'm part of the organization. I'm not in any way affiliated with any mafia. But it's just one of the interesting things that we do as part of our organization.
So, what is it in what context do you work with the mafia? Where have you studied them? Tell me more.
Okay, so I don't work with the mafia. But what has happened is that, so my background is in criminology, crime prevention and criminology. And what has happened throughout the years of studying crime is that a lot of people just look at the criminal aspect of things. But we've been a bit fortunate to say we were able to see the business side of crime. So what we've done through that and why we call it the Mafia Code was that we actually learned about how, if we take away the bad business aspect of things, how actually these triads or the mafia to say, all those organizations that still been around, billion-dollar industry, they must be doing something right. So we spent a bit of time just understanding that, studying criminals, understanding how all this worked, and perhaps Mafia Code, right? And that's what we built from that. How do we take the good side of crime and use it into proper business development?
First, get your experience in actually interacting with these people to learn from them. When did you realize, actually there's some pattern here that's not in the textbook that I can take to business?
Okay. So we spent a bit of time. We were very fortunate. We were given permission to go into prison. So I've been to prisons in a few parts of the world as well. And while having a very casual, nothing related to business, and somehow something came about personal income tax. And I just, wow. So in prison, you're paying personal income tax? Yeah. My business is outside. So tell me more. I need to understand how are you doing this, right? And then I said, before that, how much are you paying income tax? And they told me the number, personal income tax number. And this was over 100,000 ringgit on personal income tax. I said, you're paying more than 100,000 ringgit on personal income tax? Told me the exact number. And I was like, I said, you're making easily more than 1 million ringgit a year. I said, how are you doing this? I couldn't comprehend it at that time, right? And then the person started explaining their business model to me. Yes. Outside, my businesses are still running. I said, how are you communicating? Well, we get phone calls. And this is this is the information I ask from them. This is what I say to them. And this is how everything runs. And oh my God, this is so interesting. There is a whole business side of things that we didn't understand. We always look at criminals, stupid for us, they're all just criminals, they're all just bad people. Putting that aside, I thought, this is actually quite genius. And so I sat down there, I started going on to every criminal I met. Hey, do you do business? Say, yeah, work for, right? And it's not as, it's the same as any other organization. You've got managers, you've got subordinates, you've got execs, right? It's all just different terms which they use. So they're like, oh my God, this is so interesting. You've got 100-man workforce. How are you managing all this? And that's basically what we started learning.
Okay, so my question would be, listening to how organized they are. My close-up, of course, I've never met one. It's like that. It's in the movies.
So I of course, the movies glorify it a bit more. But as you can see as well, let's just take The Godfather, for example, right? Or even there's this other former Italian mafia guy, Michael Franzini. He speaks very openly about leadership using mafia techniques as well. What's interesting about this is, like what you said, it's organized. That's why they call it organized crime. It's so well organized, right? And so they must be doing something right. So it's not exactly like in the movie, because The Godfather is all about, okay, let me kill you, let me kill me, I want to expand my territory. It's all about that. But it's more of, okay, now you have that area, I have this area. We are both in business. how do we now leverage off each other? Right? Okay, you take care of that. I'm going to take care of this area. Let's not cross paths. Let's not. There shouldn't be any bad business. Okay, now I've got this team under me. And you must understand, not everything is illegal business, right? There are some legal businesses which they have as well. That's how you manage everything. You've got proper work ethics. I'll give you a very simple example when we speak about work ethics.
Okay.
Right? With criminals, work ethics. Nobody has better work ethics and better resilience than criminals. Give you a very simple example. When was the last time anyone has ever heard a criminal say, I'm feeling a bit stressed today. I don't think I'm going to rob somebody. You don't hear that. He's stressed. He's not stressed. He's going on to do crime. Right? So, extremely good work ethic. I think every organization wants that. But I think what's more fascinating is how the top guys are able to instill all this into their manpower, to say, right? And maybe another interesting quality which they have, communication. Right? What most organizations have is always communication problems. What the top guy says and what reaches the bottom, sometimes totally different. They again does totally something different from what the director has asked for. But you don't have that problem in mafia organizations. Why? And here's the thing. They are very restricted in what they can say. I cannot simply send out an email. People are monitoring me. I cannot simply talk on the phone. Hey, I need this thing sorted out. Cannot, because people are monitoring. But yet, anything that's said at the top is exactly understood at the bottom. Right? So these are all communication, I think, techniques which we should adopt. It must be something. There is a very big, because of money, very big misconception. If they were really there just for money, they wouldn't have that attitude, I will die for my organization. And that's what they do. They have that attitude. The loyalty that's there is what keeps them there, which what most organizations fail to do. Right? That's why people are ready to jump ship over a 200 ringgit increase. Right? Whereas these guys, you can offer them so much more and they're not going to jump ship. No, I'm loyal. So the loyalty is built as well. And it's not built out of fear. It's built out of a sense of belonging, which most organizations fail to provide. Right? Some small organizations say, oh, we are family. It doesn't jive with everybody else. Because there are some parts where you need to fire people and suddenly their family makes it difficult. But what's important is to be able to create a sense of purpose for each and every person who's working with you. And
do they do training?
I think it's a lot of mentoring.
Okay.
When you want to upskill yourself, you need somebody to mentor you. So they spend that time, right? And it's not restricted from 9 to 6, right? They actually spend the time after office hours, sit down, let's do this. You're free at night, come, let's do this. So let me help you build your craft. Because why? When you perform well, I perform well as well. Right? So there's always that mentoring process there.
Educated, or is it because it's a family-run business and whether you have the qualification or not, you step in as a leader, or are they like appointed because of merits?
Okay. How somebody would say whether they are educated or not would be very different. A lot of people define being educated differently. Some because you have academic qualification, others you're just street smart and you understand systems better. And I would like to point this out as well. You would see most of the time, when we look at, just say, fraud alone, right? The ones who defraud a certain organization are not the highest educated, right? They just understand systems a bit better, right? And that's the worst part, right? You've got all these guys who have like masters and PhDs in compliance, audit, legal, integrity, everything put together. And yet somebody who doesn't have that academic qualification is able to bypass your systems, right? So I think in terms of being smart, yes. Academically educated, not always. But a lot of them actually, I think, value education, just how you put it into place. So it's not that you there as the leader. Yes and no, but your leadership qualities must be good for any organization to be able to sustain itself. Same goes with you would like to say the mafia. If your leadership skills are not good, it doesn't last.
How do they instill loyalty to make sure that the staff stay in the organization?
Sense of belonging, right? every organization which MNCs fail is to build a sense of belonging, and which they do. That's why you can see, people say, I'll die for my gang, right? You don't see people say, I'm going to die for my company, right? Or I'm going to slog until 12 in the morning down. So people start complaining, where's my OT, system and all, right? But you have to, a few things, you have to have that sense of belonging. Another thing is you have to always have recognition, which they do. They recognize you for who you are, right? And that's what gives that sense of wanting to be part of it. You see, for example, if one of them were to pass away, funeral looks so grand, and I think like that's what a lot of people eye for, like a very grand send off, which they do. Hundreds of people come, right? And they say the nicest things about a person. This person was this, the person was that, Whereas in other organizations, you don't have that sort of a bond, which they do.
During one of our podcasts, we talk about women going back to the workforce, and are there much female participation in these organizations?
The news, it came out not too long ago, there was this lady who was part of a motorcycle theft syndicate, and she was the head of the motorcycle theft syndicate, right? So I think at the end of the day, gender roles are secondary when it comes to this. You just must be tough enough to be able to handle that environment. Like I said, the resilience is there. You must just be able to prove yourself. A bit different from other organizations. Sometimes you get promoted because I like you, not because you're capable, right? So there's a lot of office politics. Less over there. Their politics is all different, right? It's not so much of within the organization, more external politics, right? But within the organization, show you're capable, because that's all we want, results.
Okay. And in this kind of organizations, is there opportunity to climb the ladder?
Yes. There's always opportunity to climb up, right? And that's what they give, right? That's what they give. Okay, I'm opening up this segment of business. I want you to lead it. So that's how it goes, right? So also, I would have to say, because there's a bit more cash flow that goes around, it's a bit easier to set up at the divisions or department in comparison to most organizations. We are very strict on our books. So like, this one, no, we want to make good profit this year. We want everybody, good bonuses and all. They also get good bonuses, but left on the books. So that's where the illegal part comes in, which we don't recommend for people to look into. With criminals is that you don't need to take care of your mental well-being too much. These guys are tough enough already, right? Like you said, you don't have sick days. You don't need a day for yoga. You don't need a retreat day. Oh, I'm stressed in the weekend. Let's go. Or I need to go for a massage day. You don't have all that. They are built tough, right? They always say, tough environments build tough people. And this is what they are, right? You don't have quitters there, right? In most organizations, we do, right? I think that the more strict term to use would be the term snowflake, right? You're very I can't take you, then I want to quit my job, right? Whereas you don't have this thing over there. You're like, I'm going to do, and I'm going to prove to myself that I'm good enough to do this job. That's the difference with the criminal mindset. I'm going to prove it to you, I'm good. Whereas what we have with the younger generation over here, it's getting too tough. I'm going to ask my parents to call my boss and talk to my boss, right? So you've got, very good question. I think that would be more of a financial thing. But I don't think there's really much loss that goes on over there. Things are good. Within the organization, people don't cheat. Everybody gets a good salary, right? Or even if not a good salary, they're well taken care of, right?
It's not.
There are the benefits to it, right? Like, okay, this month you've got not enough money to buy groceries. No problem. I'll take care of you. I think cool buy groceries. So people are very appreciative when you take care of the family, right? And that's why, when you see The Godfather and all, it's all about taking care of the family, right? So same thing as well. They are very appreciative to those kind of things. They are, but it's very, very, and also probably not publicly known. So they probably are, but I don't know of it.
Okay.
One example. If you look at the scam centers where they found in Cambodia, this is like a proper complex. They are not some rundown place or anything like that. Proper high-tech building. People won't come in, so it's very well guarded. So it's not like what you would think people are in the slums or anything like that. No, They're given meals a day. There's a complex for you to play sports. There's a complex to do work. There's a complex for you to eat. It's like a whole office zone. Yeah. So
Communication, because I think many organizations struggle with communication, right? Even like we have WhatsApp text, you WhatsApp the team, and then they all understand the WhatsApp differently, right? Whereas you can read it some more. And these people, they don't WhatsApp the thing. So how do they ensure good communication?
they all use the same jargons. If I were to write A, B, C, D, E, you will say, oh, those are 5 alphabets. I would say those are 5 letters, right? So there is no confusion in the terms that they use in comparison to us. We have that thing, right? To some people, hey, okay, I need it by 12 o'clock. 12:01 is okay, 12:02 is okay. Some people who don't know how to manage time, right? To some people, it's like, no, if it's not here by 9:59, it's late, right? So different understandings the corporate world has in comparison to them. Same jargon, only one term, that's it.
Language.
Yes. And that's one thing I think you said that's very interesting. You know, diversity, but everybody still speaks the same language, right? So it's a very interesting way of how they do things and how they don't let other things get in the way of communication. I think one of the good things they do is always clarify also. Whereas we don't. We're like, oh, boss here like this, okay, do what I understand. You don't want to ask the second time, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of things that we do that actually makes it harder for an organization to function. Whereas if we take these good values from criminals and apply it, is so much better, right? The good values.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the trade, right? Or what they're doing at that point in time. And also one thing you have to remember, they have to think on the fly as well, all right? Suddenly they're doing something, police coming, what do they do next, right? You don't see them panicking. They're calm about the situation, but the mind is...
On the field, how do we build that?
I guess in the environment they grew up in as well, right? And the environment you continue to be in. You go into that environment knowing I'm going to be in tough situations and I want to build myself in those situations. Whereas what happens is that when we have, in normal organizations, you see, you come, there's a nice office, right? Aircon, we are spoiled. So we don't build resilience because we'll be like, oh, if I don't do this, you know, for what I want to do anything extra, I'm not going to get anything more. We will always dollars and cents to us, right? Whereas they look at, no, what's good for everybody. There's a very community mindset in criminals in comparison to MNCs where we have a very individualistic mindset, right? So when it comes to all of this, I think what's very important is that we must be able to, when it comes to building resilience, it's a process. It's a process. Sportsmen have it, right? They go, they push themselves every day. They don't complain, right? The coaches are not soft with you. You know, if you just look at sports as well, right? You look at how, like if you look at Mike Tyson when he talks about his journey, right? Tough, right? Tough. Same thing. Any athlete has a tough coach behind them. It's not the coach that said, oh, you're tired today and I might take the day off. So coach says, you're tired, so what? Pick it up, build yourself, get better, right? So whereas in organizations, we don't have that because HR will say, hey, you don't build resilience there.
Let's look at the sports itself. So the sports has two main components, the coach and then the athlete, right? Yeah. And the athlete does it because there's fame and glory. The coach does it because there's financial remuneration and also some fame and glory there as well. But so when we translate that and also the Mafia code to organizations, does it fall on the organization to toughen up their staff?
The management needs to do that as well. And that's why you have trainings, right? You have trainings, people go for trainings, communication training, team buildings, Mafia code trainings, right? People go for all that. But two, if the staff doesn't take that initiative to not only toughen up, but to upskill, you're going to be left behind. And then you cannot then complain, oh, everybody getting a raise, I'm not getting a raise, everybody getting promoted, I'm not getting promoted. It's going to come to a point where the organization is going to say, look, your job and AI can do it now. I don't need you. You bring no additional value out. Right? So that upskilling is not only important for the staff, it's not only important for an organization to do for the staff, but the staff has to take initiative. If not, you're going to be left behind, right? If not, you can say, I'm comfortable with my job. But the world around you is moving so fast in the sense of even your cost of living is going up. So if you don't buck up, you can be comfortable, but your cost of living is going up. And that's where you will start falling back. And that's how sometimes people end up going into debt because they don't keep up.
How do they do?
They don't need to put up an ad on job street. They probably assistant. But what happens is the media has played such a big role in it, right? Would you rather be a police officer or a criminal? People say criminal guys got more power, right? So that's the thing. Media has played an extremely big role. Give you a very good example. You've heard of
Okay.
right? We've glorified them so much. Not the actual police officers that did their job to keep you safe. Nobody knows who they are, right? I'm sure there are articles about them. Nobody has read it. There isn't a movie about them. There isn't a book about them. There's no documentary on that. Right? The whole journey of how they had to work together and go and these guys. Nothing on that. But these guys, committing crime, glorified, right? Feel there's the livelihood of society and all, right? So we glorify crime. So I think recruitment is not an issue. Everybody wants to be part of it.
I want to ask you about in your experience, right? What has been the one belief that you had about organized crimes before you went in? And then after you started studying them, what was the biggest misconception for you?
Very low. So yeah, that would be maybe the biggest misconception I had. And I think a lot of respect to the resilience that they have, right? Their mental toughness, whole other level, right? Whole other level. You don't see them going through depression, or even if they are, they work through it, right? So I think the mental toughness was one thing which, before having that.
The media, right? I think one of the things that when you were saying about it, one of the things that reminded me, yes, we glorify these gangsters as well, if I can call them that. But at the same time, I've seen advertisements for the U.S. Marine Corps and things like that, which they also, and the Navy as well, which they also glorify, and a lot of people join that as well, right? So it's something that they've copied as well.
So yes and no, right? Okay, everybody glorifies on the work for Google. It looks very good on your resume, right? But they also forget how difficult is it to get there now, right? The other thing is that just because the work environment is nice doesn't, you have to understand. I think when you speak to Google employees, they work around the clock, right? Oh, you go to office, oh nice, there's a fort for sleeping. Why is it there? It's definitely there because you are not going to go back at 6 o'clock, right? Yeah, so we have to look at all that. When we speak about the U.S. Marines and all, yes, what do they sell? They sell the discipline, they sell that you're going to look fit, and they sell that you're going to be respected, right? Same thing with the gangs. People respect gangs, right? If you walk into an area, oh, it's a big gangster, you out of fear, out of anything, you show respect to him. And I think that's what people buy. Buying it. Of course, the remunerations is another one when people work at Google and all. It's just because in terms of a tech firm, they are extremely big and everybody wants to be part of it. And then what happens with that is not every organization, this is the problem as well. And like we speak about the media, right? Now, the younger generation has that perception that is the standard, that Google is the standard of how all organizations should be. We have days, we can wear any baju and come to work, right? We can come to work in shorts, right? Nobody comes to my office in shorts. Dress up properly. I give you an example. In our office, we are casual. But you don't come to work in shorts, right?
This podcast is supported by Work. More than just a co-working space, it's an ecosystem built for human connection. So whether you're established or you're a startup, find room to grow at Work.
Okay, respect is something that we've always been told is something you earn, right? You can't force people to respect you. So, but how do we create respect? Like, why is it when I see a staff of these organizations on the street, I'd be scared of him? Whereas if I see the usual, police ronda, I wouldn't be so scared of him. And if not to say scared, I mean, okay, you get respect, maybe I deserve more respect, but they don't get it.
I think that's the wrong thing that's being taught. Respect is given. Respect is earned. Respect is earned. That's the wrong thing that's being taught. I think especially in most cultures, respect is given and then lost, right? That's how it should be, right? I don't need to know you to respect you. I have to respect you. It's automatically given. But your actions either let me keep the respect for you or lose the respect towards you. So instead of saying, oh, you have to earn my respect, I should be giving you that. That's just how a decent human being should be. We've taken this Western terminology of respect is earned and we've adopted it into our culture, which is, I think, very wrong. Why is it, for example, in the Malay culture, for example, we look, if they walk in front of an elderly person, they bend down. Why? It's given. I don't need to say, oh, I don't know you, I don't respect you, so I'm going to walk out. No. Respect has always been given in our Malaysian culture. Just that we've adopted now a very, I would like to say, Western or European way of working, that we suddenly say, oh, respect is earned. That was not how we were raised, actually. Right? Well, like the same thing with like when you see elderly people, right? In any culture in Malaysia, hey, make sure you greet them properly, right? If you don't say, oh, do you respect this person? If you don't greet, no. Whether you respect the person or not, you give the respect.
The Gen Z's perception of organized crimes, do they still glorify? Do they want to participate in these organizations? Are they wary?
Like you said, movie understanding or social media understanding of what it is. It's not a safe environment to be in. Right? Even though I do respect how they do their business, in the sense of the brains that goes behind it, that fascinates me. But it's not a safe space to be in, right? It's not a space that I am in on the long run, right? We study it, we understand it, and thank you, right? But because we keep glorifying it, why? Oh, I'm 20 years old, I drive a big car, right? Oh, I'm 20 years old, I bought a big house. Something is wrong somewhere. SPRM should be looking into these things. That money is not legit money, right? So, at a young age, you need to be financially successful. No, right? You work hard, you earn your money, along the line you build success. Why are you dropping out of school and thinking you're going to be successful creating content or working in this organization, for example? You need to build that and understand. Some people say, oh, my father is a multimillionaire. Yeah, but it took years for your father to be a multimillionaire. Why are you hoping to do it at 20? It's not wrong. But then there's a lot of things that you're not doing properly to be able to achieve that thing at 20 years old. So I think, look into it. Then money is going to be the temporary. I'll tell you this, right? If ever SPRM knocks on your door, it's a very scary thing. They won't knock on your door unless they already have something on you. I respect for them. Especially when it comes to financial crime. Even I find it hard to keep up at times. And when they explain it to me, it sounds like they understand it like it's kids play for them. I find it hard to understand it at times. Right? So Gen Zs, the work ethic is so bad. To be honest, in our organization, we stopped hiring Gen Zs. We just don't hire anymore. Right? The only Gen Zs we have are interns. And also a lot of them are foreign interns. They are not even local interns. Right? Because the foreign interns have come here, they are studying over here, and they're like, okay, I need to work hard, I need to make sure I don't fail my grades, I need to do well. Local interns, we've stopped. Right? So and here's the thing, right? It's not that there are, I'm sure, some Gen Zs who are very hardworking. But our experience has led us to believe that, unfortunately, every Gen Z we find has been a bad hire. So we just say, no mind, let's just pay a bit more and get somebody with experience and then having to deal with all this. We are a small organization, so we don't have the time to go through all these and always have to deal with your nonsense, right? And that's why we stopped hiring Gen Z.
Let's go back to this Gen Z because I want them to have something to take away. How would they then, because one thing I have observed is that they lack resilience, right? So how do they toughen themselves out? Because everything is very cushiony for them, right?
Yeah.
Because the parents have done so well that they provide well for the kids. So how do they do that? So from the Gen Z itself, how do they build? And for the parents in these organizations, how do they deal with their children? Do they also give everything to the children and the children take over the business, or do they expect their children, go out and do something for you? How do they deal with it?
Again, you have to continuously learn what's going on from the bottom up. Second, you have to continuously keep the respect of everyone, right? So that's a few things as well. When it comes to, see, I'm not saying Gen Zs are all hopeless, right? Like we said, we do hire Gen Zs as our interns, right? And they're very hardworking ones, but most of them have been foreign students, right? Not local students. And it's not that they are lazy; they're extremely hardworking, right? The ones that we've had. But I think what has happened is social media has given them that illusion that this is how it should be, and they believe that, not knowing these are the realities of workforce, right? Or 6 o'clock sharp, I need to go back. Nonsense, right? Why can't you work a bit longer? Oh, no OT, I cannot work. Right? So, and then they, I should be compensated if I'm going to work a few minutes. So I tell people this, right? Okay, so I give you a very simple example. You are hired to do A to D, for example. You have to do A to D. In a whole year, you've achieved A to D. Right? Should you be getting a raise next year? Or should you be given a bonus for achieving A to D?
But that's your job, right?
Exactly. That's your job. I've hired you to do A to D. And I've said this, understand, take that extra initiative, do that F, G, all that. Then you go to your boss and say, look, you've hired me for this, but I've achieved this much. Makes total sense, right? And that's what a lot happens in these criminal organizations. Just because I'm just supposed to steal a motorcycle, I'm not just going to steal motorcycles. I'm also going to steal and I'm going to find a buyer for you. That's how I upskill. That's how I bring additional value. At the end of the day, you must see, other than what I'm hired for, what additional value am I bringing to the organization? And if I prove that value, then somebody else is going to prove that value, right? Yes.
What do you think leaders or the main traits that the leaders should learn?
Okay. When we look at what MNC leaders can do, right, as MNC and SMEs and all, one thing is you have to walk the talk, right? The same thing is what the triad leaders do. They walk the talk, right? And so that's the one thing you should do. Second thing is, it's not always an I thing, right? A lot of these MNC leaders, once they've, especially the mid managers, the staff does all the work, they take all the glory. Doesn't happen in the Mafia organization. A lot of glory is given back to everybody, and that's what everybody wants. They're like, oh, okay, I'm recognized for the work that I do. So I think as leaders, that's one of the things that you should do. One is communicate properly, be very clear on the jargon, set the expectations from the start. Right, set the expectation from the start. Just an example in my organization, right? Small team, but during the interview, the expectation is set. This is what is my expectation. For example, one of the things that we have and we practice very strict, very religiously, is timing. Right? To us, work starts at 9. If you're not there by 8:59, you're late. During the interview, that's the clear thing. So nobody's late in the office unless emergency here and there, suddenly is traffic. Understand? But if not, everybody understands I need to be there on time. Right? Dressing, okay, sending a smart casual, fine. So we are lax on certain things, but we also walk the talk. Me and the other managers, none of us are ever late. You're always on time. So just because you're the boss doesn't mean you come in late. Right? Understand, we work till late. Right? Sometimes you're tired, next day morning, I wake up so tired. But no, if I'm not there by 8:59, it sets bad precedence to the rest. So you have to walk the talk.
Why do you think we're so, what is the fear that we have in being tough?
HR complained. I think that's the thing, right? HR.
And children not liking you.
And children not liking you, so that's the thing, right? I always tell parents, especially when we talk about crime prevention, I always tell parents, your kids are not your friends, right? You're a parent. Your job is to take care of your children and make sure they turn out to be the best people possible. Don't treat them like your friends. Spy on them is theft too. With the nonsense that goes on these days, your job as a parent is to keep them safe. Make them the best versions of themselves. There are different ways of doing it. Sometimes you don't need to be all tough. It doesn't need to be the old school where I beat toughness into you. I don't agree with that as well, right? But it doesn't mean that you give in to everything, right? You have now parents calling managers, oh, why you talk to my child like that? Oh, my son is stressy. Yeah, he doesn't want to come to work. I understand if you're sick and you're asking a parent, can you call your manager, right? But this one, mind-boggling that parents these days want to do that for their children.
How do you think are the most vulnerable in joining these kind of organizations? Now we're going back to the organizations itself, but more on the darker side of things for the purpose of prevention, because part of what you studied was criminal.
On this podcast called the Malaysian Kumar podcast. And this person was a former gang member, and he said, right, it's easier to recruit school kids because one, they see, this older guy, like an Anna to me or an older brother. And I think, especially when it comes to parents, I think what's very important is that there's this thing called, there are two theories, which is called the life cost theory and the latent trait theory, which says that one is that people go into crime because, they're just built that way. Second, that's the latent trait theory. There was the life cost theory, which talks about because of the environment, you end up in crime. What's very interesting about, so it's very, different theories, but what both theories agree is that with proper love and guidance, a person will never commit crime, right? So that's the thing, right? It all comes back to what values you practice as parents and how do you instill those values into your children, and talk about how do you just contribute better to society. When we speak about building capacity and all, one of the greatest things that you need to do as a parent is to ensure that your child is able to build capacity within society. What we mean by that is that you are doing things which actually contribute to the betterment of society and not all about just making money, right? So that's the thing, right? Just say now, why, if you tell somebody, you need to study to be a doctor, why? What would be the reason somebody studies to be a doctor? So he drives big car, right? So now to be a doctor, I have to study this many years, 5 years, and then I'm at this specialization. So all these 10 years before I achieve to be a specialist, right? But if I were to commit crime, I can achieve that without having to go through all this. And I can achieve probably better monetary freedom, more money, without even having to go through these 10 years of studying and having to go through the slog of it. So, same difference, right? You're still telling them, you're studying hard to earn more money, and then the guy's going to learn, but I don't need to study hard, I can really earn more money. So, I think that's the thing about when it comes back to how we guide children. Like, you have to, the better thing to do would be to talk about people. One is to how do you contribute to the betterment of society. Two, help kids understand the value of a life. If not, that's why you have all these bullying cases in schools, people beating children until they're dying. It's crazy, right? But then if children understand empathy and the value of a life, I think the world will be a much better place.
Okay, what can we do on a day-to-day basis? How do we enable crime? Is it like lack of complaining, or how do we enable crime? And what can we do in our capacity?
It's like criminals used to break into homes, right? I'm actually showing you the vulnerabilities in your home. And people get upset with me. They're like, why are you showing this? You are teaching criminals how to commit crime. So I was like, I'm showing you this is exactly how criminals are doing. I will be very honest. How did I tell them, look, I'm not the one that figured this out. I'm just showing you exactly what criminals taught me, right? But people get upset, say, no, you're teaching criminals. I say, look, now I've taught you that your home can be broken in this way. Instead of getting upset at me, you know the vulnerabilities, but you're choosing not to upgrade your security, for example. But you're choosing to get upset at me. And that's what people do to enable crime. You already know, for example, the locks you're currently using, for example, are not good. And you still say, see, Shahmir is showing people, now I'm becoming a victim because of him. Now you're just shifting the blame to somebody else, right? You've been given a false sense of security, and you choose to remain in that bubble instead of taking preventive measures. Same thing, that's what happens in society. We enable crime because we choose to be ignorant. We choose not to take preventive measures, and we have this very tida apa attitude. Right? So that's what happens. And what can we do to reduce crime? First of all, even the smallest crime, please report it to the police. Their statistics actually matter. Right? Second, the best way to reduce crime is through community building. To know your neighbors, to engage in meaningful conversation with them. And now, why did I use the term meaningful conversation and not just conversation, because what happens with just normal conversation is just ideal gossip. And you don't build genuine friendships through that. You just build, oh yeah, I know you. But when you get into meaningful conversation, you have like, hey, what can we do in our neighborhood? And that like, oh, maybe we should do this because, there's a lot of people just dumping rubbish over there. Now there's a sense of purpose on why we are getting together, why we are doing it, and that builds that bond. The same thing with any criminal organization. We build that bond. Same thing you're doing now in your neighborhood. You build that bond, and that's how you reach the sky.
Okay. I think one question that I wanted to ask you is how do you think that burnout, because burnout is something that everybody talks about, but I suppose there is no burnout in these organizations, but do they themselves prioritize well-being?
A few years ago, it was never part of anybody's dictionary in Malaysia, especially. Like, we are not a culture that talks about our mental well-being. I do agree that it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
People need to do it. I applaud organizations for taking the effort and making sure, that their staff and all are mentally, healthy. Right? If not, you have these suicides and just that's creating awareness about it. We didn't even understand what depression was until many, many years ago. Right? Do they prioritize it? I guess yes and no. Right? One, you're meant to be tough, and you're built in tough environments. But two, probably everybody has different outlets, right? Some of it could be alcohol abuse. Some of it could be just playing sports. Everybody has different outlets, but I think you need to be given that time, right, to be able to do it. In some organizations, well, if you have a better work-life balance, it's good, but doesn't mean you're mentally sane just because you have a better work-life balance, right? So I think people just need to understand what is their outlet and then just use that outlet. It can be simple, just binge watching TV as well, or it could be reading a book, could be drinking coffee with a friend, right? People just need to understand what is that outlet to keep them sane.
Okay, that was like the most active conversation because we just went from point to point because there is so much to cover. But I also realized that there is a lot more that we need to cover with you. So we definitely need to have you back.
More definitely. Anytime. I'm more than happy to come back. But I think I just would actually like to thank you for actually having podcasts like this. I think it's great that, you all are looking into these sort of things and creating this kind of awareness. And I think the topics that you speak about in your podcast is very good. So those who have never watched this, first time watching, please do share the other podcast as well. These are the kind of things that you should watch, not this stupid stuff on social media, right? It should be, podcasts like this that actually carry value. So thank you very much for creating content that carries value.
Thank you so much. It's only made meaningful by guests like you. And one thing that I ask all my guests as a last question, and you kind of partially answered it. If you could have one wish to make the planet a better place, what would it be?
I think I would want people to have more empathy. I think that would make a big difference in how everyone treats everyone. One thing I always tell people is, if we are having a bad month, it's a good month for society, right? Because if we are busy, it means crime rates are high. So the goal is always for us to be, we always talk about it in the office and we say, if we go out of business, it's bad for us, but it's good for society. So that's our goal, that we go out of business. Right? There's just no crime. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Shahmir, for the great work that you do. Thank you so much for being on our podcast today.
Thank you very much.
All right. And that should be a wrap.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining me at The Edge. Now, the stories and opinions shared by my guests are theirs alone. They are raw, personal, and do not necessarily reflect my own views or professional stance. I present these dialogues as lived realities, not absolute truth. It's for you to examine, challenge, and interpret. Like any investigation into the human condition, the evidence is laid bare. What you take away from it is entirely up to you. Once again, this podcast is supported by Work. Work is not just a co-working space, it's an ecosystem built for human connection. So whether you're an established entity or a startup, find space to grow at work. Okay, be sure to turn on the notification bell icon for this podcast. And here's a surprise. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you do all four, that's a mystery gift potentially waiting for you. I am Dr. Manju Apadurai. Until the next time, stay centered, but keep your edge.